Good evening, Nick Inman here from VolumeProfileTrader.com on Wednesday, February 22nd. And before I get into tonight's video, I want to say that we're having a Q&A next Wednesday, the 29th. That's the last day of February. It's going to be at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. So that's just a heads up. It's free to sign up. The link's at the bottom of the page. So go ahead and do that now or do that after the video. Go ahead. The idea is basically to ask any questions you have on the market in general, maybe more about volume profile if you're curious, or how I see the market in terms of structure and how I see trade setups. So hope to see you there, hope to see you sign up. But for now, let's get into the market. So the S&P kind of continues this little downward bias over the last, since the beginning of the week. And with that said, it may be poised for an opportunity to the buy side. I think we have a little more downside to go. I would look to the bottom of this high volume area, 1350, let's call it, just because it's an even number. That's 5 points lower from current levels. What we would want to see is a bounce and then eventually a move back up to the top of this trend line. Now, eventually this market's going to top off, and the high back from the high from last year is on the S&P. It is not the S&P futures, but the actual S&P is around 1370, and that would be about 1375 or so on the S&P futures. So we're right there, and basically it's a point of reference. So what we're looking at now is there's not a whole lot of volume at current levels as far as trading up at these higher levels, but there is some decent volume at lower levels. Now, if we do start to break this trend line, which has been valid for the entire 2012 year, then you would start to look for volume levels on the downside that we could go and test. And the first one would be February's point of control, which is this 1340 level or so, and you would look for a test of those levels and a trade off of those levels. Now, if we do start breaking down below, I would recommend taking some profits on some names that are starting to decline, staying involved, but realizing that the easy money for now has probably been made. I'll pull up the 52-week chart, and what we see here is basically 1300 or so is probably the downside. That's the furthest you want to see this market decline, but really between 1335 and 1305, that's your sweet spot. And if the market trades into there, you basically have a great point of reference. If the market basically drops below 1300, or trades below and then trades back up, and underneath 1300 is rejected, and the buying power comes in, then it's a great level to get long for a longer term move. But for now, all we have is just a steady uptrend, and eventually that uptrend's gonna end, and it may end tomorrow, and we may get a pullback to 1300. But if we do get that, you should be all over it, and you want to be a buyer of that dip. So that's just something to be aware of. The NASDAQ, it's actually, this trend line's about to be broken, unless if we have a nice day tomorrow, which HP came out with earnings, so that's just something to be aware of. It's down a little bit, not a lot. But what we're seeing here is we have some decent volume at the top end of the range that we're trading off of, and I'd be looking down towards 2560 on the NASDAQ 100 futures and looking for a bounce at those levels. The Dow, everything's still okay there, so that's just something to be aware of. Chesapeake Energy, I do think that we're coming in for a buying opportunity here. I don't know if today was the day. I'm still long from lower levels. I still have option positions on that expire out in June that are still sitting on very nice profits, and I own some shares right around a break even So that's just something to be aware of. And I do think that Chesapeake over the longer term goes higher. Las Vegas stands up today on a down tape. That's pretty good. And that's something to be aware of. We like to see outperformers. So keep an eye on Las Vegas. Make sure you stay long. There's nothing wrong with Las Vegas Sands. And it actually brings up another name that I talked about last night, Wynn. I think Wynn on weakness is a buy. So if you can get it more towards 115, I think that's an opportunity to scoop it up. Terra Nitrogen, I haven't talked about this in a couple of weeks. I got stopped out of this. I don't know, somewhere in this range. And it was a nice trade. Caught it from, if you remember, 160. Caught it from those levels, rode it up, took some profits up at the top end of the range, and then continued to ride the rest higher. It was a good trade. I don't think necessarily that this is a good buying opportunity at all, but I see this day, back on the 16th, the low on that day was 191. If we do get back down to those levels, at least you have your risk defined to go long. American Express, flat, not really much to say. We are at the top end of the range. That's something to be aware of. Visa performed very well. We had a bullish engulfing pattern, which means the open, or I should say today, the range for today, the open was below yesterday's close, and the close today was above yesterday's open. So literally all of yesterday's price action, really the price action you could say for the last 4 days, was engulfed, except for this little tail back on the 15th. So that's pretty impressive. I don't know if that means it's going to move higher, but it's something to be aware of. MasterCard continues to chug along. If you remember, we got long down at these levels. I took profits up at the top end of this range, but clearly that was not the right move, and you should still be holding it. However, I'm not, and I'm sticking with American Express. Alpha Natural Resources, this trade is not working out. We kept trying to look for some type of bottom. I thought it was on the 2nd of February. Rode it for 2 days, and that was it. And we looked for a bounce on the 9th, and it failed immediately. Looked for a bounce on the 15th, 16th, and then it failed, and it continues lower. So I think Alpha Natural Resources, really, it could be a short, and you could keep your stop above 21.25 or so. This recent swing high, looking for a move lower. Just realize earnings are the 24th, which is Friday. Price Smart, keep an eye on this. Didn't really do much today, but still holding this point of control for the last year. I think that matters. I think it's going to set up for a move higher. However, if it doesn't, and let's say what I'm looking for is some type of positive close, some type of box, and then the following day see fall through to the upside, higher low, higher high, that sort of thing, so you can define your risk and put your stop below those levels. That's what I'm looking for, but we haven't gotten that yet, so there's no reason to really jump on that train. Halliburton, this is the top performing stock in my portfolio. It continues to chug higher. I think this is going to 40 in the next couple days. That's where I plan to take profits, but I'm really looking for 46 on the upside also, which is the top of the value area. No volume. All you really have is the top of this volume, which isn't a lot, but it was a swing high. It's the 200-day moving average, so it matters. But from there, you really don't have any volume until the mid-40s, so that should set up for a nice move higher on Halliburton. ConocoPhillips continues to work. Very light volume today, but I do like the fact that it continues to trade higher, although you have to look at oil in that circumstance. It's at the value area high for the year, and it's just something to be aware of. I do think on weakness you want to be a buyer of oil. Johnson Controls taking a pause, down a little bit, take some profits, ring the registers, nothing wrong with that. Devon Energies, same thing. If you want to go ahead and take some profits, that's fine. Tech Resources continues to get our follow through off the value area. Wish I caught this a little bit lower but you really can't get too picky. I would be looking for a trade back up to the mid 40s, and from there ultimately up to 50, low 50s. So that's something to be aware of. Freeport, I would still be looking for a pullback to lower levels, although it's similar to Teck Resources. Maybe what I'm really looking for is more consolidation at these lower levels. Right now, as I look at it, February's point of control is at the top end of the range. I don't want that. I want February's point of control at the bottom end where price currently is. It's not like that, therefore I'm not getting behind this name. Intel, I don't want to say I think this is done, because I don't. I just said last night that it's going higher. However, don't get carried away with this. Sorry about that. What you're looking for on Intel is to hold for Intel to hold this range, and if it does, then it's okay. If not, nothing's really wrong with it, other than the probability of it pulling back more increases. So that's something that you want to keep your eye on. The euro actually did fairly well today. I'm waiting to see if this is going to pull back. It's not. All we have now is basically rejection off of these major lows, and as long as it holds these swing lows down around 130 or so, that should be a good sign for the euro. The dollar, now this is at the bottom of the range. It's consolidating. I'll bring up the intraday chart. What you see is we do have some heavy volume here, and what that means is we're going to get a move one way or the other. If we move higher on the dollar, that means we're probably going to move lower on equities. So keep an eye on that and keep it on your screen, because it's something that you want to keep an eye out for. Walgreens, to be honest, I've given up on this name. However, it's still working, and really what you're having is higher lows, and it kind of looks like how Devon did against this point of control, and eventually you got to squeeze out the top. That's similar to what Walgreens looks like now. So if you want to keep that on your radar, you can. You can keep a small position. It's not a fast mover or anything, so it's not that big of a deal. SanDisk, keep this on your radar. Looking for a bounce in the next couple of days. Today was a light volume day, so there wasn't much to it. Amazon, we just got a point of control shift for the year today. So I would be more intrigued to be looking at Amazon for a long. So long as it can really hold these lows, then we're okay, and we're probably going to go see 200 again on Amazon. Pretty decent trading range, and it's working. Every time it gets to the top of the channel, you want to sell it. To the bottom of the channel, you want to buy it. Right now, we're in the middle of the channel with a downside bias, so that's just something to be aware of. And Apple, top end of the range, nothing really to say here. Let it do what it's going to do. Didn't want to bring Yamaha Gold, although if you want a gold mining company, this is the company you want to be buying. Alright, gold futures. Gold had a nice move higher today, and it continues to work off the point of control for the year. I don't think this is the end for gold. For the upside, however, we do have a little bit of resistance. And what I'm going to do is bring up over the intraday chart. And let's bring that over. So you can see we have point of control from August. And this is just simply a level to be aware of. This volume's probably all but gone, and people have already sold into it, but we traded up to that level today. Your next level after that would be, well, the obvious 1800, which is just psychological level, and then 1825 or so on the upside. That's September's point of control. I do think there's some more upside to gold. However, probably going to take a small pause, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Silver, I think this is about to break out to the upside, so be aware of that. And really, that's it. So I hope this helps. I hope you're trading well. My hopes are your portfolio continues to hit all-time highs. If not, then reconsider, take some profit, raise some cash. There's nothing wrong with that. You can always reevaluate your portfolio and look to get involved at different price levels. So take care, have a good night, and remember to sign up for the Q&A.